Good morning, everybody. I'm Veronica Malenga, the FIR Project Manager, and I'm here to facilitate this webinar on how to increase disability disclosure rates. Before we get started, just some technical support to note. If you're having any technical or sound difficulties, you can dial in by calling the number there and entering the participant's PIN number. If you have any questions you may have throughout this webinar, do drop us a comment in the comment box at any time, and we will look to answer them towards the end of the webinar. The session will be recorded and made available in the FIR Resource Library. The next, we do tend to ask this question. The reason why we ask this is because the program is funded by CITB, and CITB have set targets to reach out to small, medium enterprises, and this is one of our key priorities. So please take a moment and answer yes or no if you're an SME. An SME is an organization that is less than 250 staff with a turnover of less than 50 million. So just give that a couple of seconds. Excellent. Thank you. So we have 57% of you who are from SMEs. Thank you so much for that. So disability disclosure. For this webinar, the key learning objectives we want you to take away is to understand the importance of disability disclosure, as well as the strategies on increasing those disclosure rates, and also to know where to go and get more information. Disability disclosure at the workplace can be greatly beneficial, especially to organisations and employees with disabilities. However, many do feel, especially those with non-visible disabilities, fear repercussions and opt not to self-identify. Disability disclosure can assure employees that they receive the appropriate workplace accommodations, as well as help organisations respond to more effectively to diversity and inclusion initiatives. Graham have been very successful in engaging with disabled employees, which has resulted in above national levels of disclosure. And I'm very pleased to say we have Michael Smith, HR Director at Graham, with us today, and will be giving us an insight as to how they have achieved this. So over to you, Michael.
Okay, well, hello everyone, and good afternoon. And just first of all, just like to thank Veronica and the Access Sustainability for giving me the opportunity to share a little with you today about the work we're doing at Graham around disability. I said earlier on, this is the first time I've done a webinar. I've done lots of talks, so I not being able to see someone is maybe going to be a bit strange. But I'm sure, as I say, hopefully we'll get some good questions for you. And I can't share any good jokes either, as I say, with the audience, as I say, so I can't hear you laugh. But I've nothing funny to say, as I say today anyway. But what I am going to be looking at is really how we in Graham have increased our disability disclosure rates. We've got some really good examples hopefully that I'm able to give you, and I want to give you an insight into the secrets of our success. And finally, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be distilling down what I believe it's really all about. So I think maybe the starting point is to maybe give you a bit of information about the organisation, some stats about us and about what we've been doing around about our employees in general, and specifically with disabled employees. Now, for those of you who don't know who Graham are, we're a national contractor. We're in the top 20 contractors. I think we're moving into the top 10, in fact. We have a turnover of nearly 1 billion, and we employ about 3,500 people across the UK. So that's maybe just putting it into context for you in terms of our size. But as I say, what we have seen in terms of our stats is that across all of types of employees, all of our employees, our disclosure rate for EDI data would be 95%. So really nearly everyone is telling us their data who are joining us or who are with us when we regularly update this. And as I say, that would be against probably what the average in the UK in our industry would be, which would be around 50% the disclosure rates. So it's nearly more than double. And when we start to look then at those employees who identify as disabled, we have about 9% of people who are doing that. Now that, if we look at society, is probably half what we know is in the normal population of people, which is around about 18%. But again, it's more than double what the average disclosure rate is for our industry, which is around just about 4%. So obviously, as I say, we are doing something right here at Graham. And certainly, as I say, I hope that you're going to see what the secrets behind that are. But if we look at those disabled employees that we have, 60% of those employees would be working what I would call flexibly. And I'll talk a bit more about that as we go forward. And all of them, 100% of them, have what I call a personal plan in how we're going to ensure that we are delivering for them what is required. And that really is being fed back to us in terms of how motivated and enthusiastic these employees are. So in our last engagement survey, we noticed that our disabled employees were scoring 5% more than all the other types of employees in the general population by at least 5% on each question. We also have a very low turnover for disabled employees. It's really negligible. It's just under 1%. If you take our overall turnover in the business is about 10 to 12%. You get a sort of an idea that that's already quite good. But really, these people are really love working for Graham. They want to be here and they feel very enthusiastic. Now, I put down here our absence rates. Now, those absence rates actually relate to the whole population of employees, which is 400% below the UK average. And the reason why I haven't included those for disability is it would be lower than that. And that's understandable because in general, some disabled employees may have to take more time off, and we maybe need to manage that more effectively. Again, something which I'll pick up as we go forward later on. But as I say, the aim today for me is to try and explain to you the factors that I believe are influencing our success, and really trying to share with you the key drivers. And there's five things that I'd like to talk about. The first one is, and if you haven't figured out already, I have a Northern Ireland accent, and hopefully you can understand me without a translator. But our organisation started out as a Irish organisation a long time ago before it metamorphosed into what the big organisation it is today. And in Northern Ireland, it is a legal requirement, and has been for about 30 or 40 years, to have to tell the government exactly your religious affiliation of all your employees. So that is something that we have to do just for that one criteria. But what really has happened over time is that employees have understood that that had to happen. And as well as that, how we had to deal with that information with sensitivity and confidentiality. So it built up really a reputation that we can be trusted. And as we went out further into expanding, people knew that's information we were looking for. We were talking about why we needed it, what we were going to do with it, and it was to people's benefit. And as I say, I think that's one of the core foundations of why we are so successful. But alongside that, as I say, we've got some very innovative programs here in Graham. One is an award-winning program called Connect, and it really drives all of our people processes. And it's all about what I call whole person development. And it covers a person's skills, their resilience, and their well-being. And the whole idea behind it is that unless you're maximizing all of those three things for a person, you won't be maximizing their value or their performance or their engagement. So to me, it's the ultimate EDI tool, because it focuses in on this individual and how we're going to make them become the best version of themselves. So it's very much about the person. It's not about this label, whether it's disability or it's ethnicity or it's sexual orientation. Those things don't matter. It's how can we make this person become the best they can be. And by doing that for each individual and training managers to be able to do that and supporting the structures behind it, then we've seen really fantastic results come out of that. So for every employee, it's about creating practical solutions to barriers that they might have, and everyone has got some form of barrier that is maybe getting in the way of them being able to perform the best that they can. And so we're giving managers and employees the autonomy and the responsibility to build a personalised solution for each individual. And as I said, we've seen some fantastic results in terms of engagement, which has gone up 20% in 3 years. We've seen retention, and we've talked about that, really go down. It's down 100% And as I say, I've highlighted what's been happening in terms of absenteeism. So we've seen some fantastic results and bottom line results for the business in terms of that return. We also have what I call our leading edge people policies. And all of our roles are open to flexibility. And I mentioned this earlier on. And what I mean by that is that flexible means different things to different people. So it's not about having this lovely formal policy, which yes, we have. It's actually about coming back to connect and thinking about little things that we can do for each person, no matter who they are, that's going to make life easier for them and actually make them perform to the best of their ability. And I think, as I say, a lot gets talked about around disability, about reasonable adjustments, and people have concerns around that. And what I would say is that I feel that's maybe coming at things from the wrong angle. Because when you talk about reasonable adjustments, it's a very negative thing. And it's all about what we must do rather than what we can do to make this person who we know adds value to our business be more productive and be the best that they can be. So we try and look at how we can do that in a very innovative way. And a couple of examples I'd like to share with you. The first one is about an employee who has MS, and it's quite degenerative. And a lot of the time they're not able to make it into work on a daily basis, or they can't necessarily come in at what I would call regular work hours. So what we've done is we've tried to look at how they can work, the pattern of their work, and they're in a job that allows that to happen. And as I say, what we've done as well is we've invested in IT equipment for them at their home so that they can actually do the work and feel, well, actually, I don't have to make this long commute in. Even simple things like making sure that they're accessing the senior manager car park, which is closer, or the visitors car park, which is closer to our head office, which means that if they did come in later, they don't have to go a long distance to be able to get into the actual building. We've also had a very innovative program out on one of our sites where we've got a project manager who is in a wheelchair, and that site has come up with a fantastic way that it works for that type of project, so that he can continue to do his job and to be skillful without, as I say, having any particular detriment in terms of mobility around the site. One of the other things I wanted to share with you is a little example of what we've been doing here, a scheme in Northern Ireland, and it's called Jam Card, and it stands for Just a Minute, and it's a scheme that has been run by a local charity to help people who are suffering from learning difficulties. So it's really physically a card that someone can show either in the workplace or a shop or wherever they might be, which tells people, well, just give me, I might take longer to process information or to understand it, and you need to be a bit more patient with me. And that's led to us having some individuals with learning difficulties coming into work on some of our sites and be able to add back into society and develop with them as well. So as I said earlier on, disabled employees are more likely to be absent. That's just the nature sometimes of their disability. And what we do is we keep in regular contact with all of our absent employees, and we're trying to support them to quickly rehabilitate back into the workplace. But it's not just about that. It's about this, what I call emotional contract that we have with employees. So we're trying to keep them connected to the business, that they feel that they're part of the business, they're part of our family, and whilst they may be off, they're still going to come back, and we want them to understand what's going on in their team and things along that line. So alongside that then, I believe that has really helped us to build this reputation out in the industry of an organisation who are really good with managing people and with dealing with people. And really, our reputation is built on the fact that our employees are spreading the word. Disabled individuals are visible living adverts on how the company treats all of our employees. And as I say, they are going around and their friends can see, other people can see, as I say, how we deal with this. We've also sought external endorsement of our approach from Disability Quality Marks. And it's all about communication, as I said, both internally and externally, so that people can see that there are role models, there are opportunities, no matter who you are, you can see yourself working in our organisation and working in our industry. And I believe then that our reputation as a people-focused organisation attracts talent. People want to come along and they want to work for us, they want to be successful, and as I say then, they want to stay with us. And the final area I want just to touch on is really just around how we partner with experts. So we develop solutions with our expert partners for what I call smart adjustments. So it's got to be something that's actually going to deliver for the person and for the business. And we want to make sure that everything that we're doing includes inclusivity, that we're thinking that way as just the norm. That's what we should be doing. And the example I would use here is about our well-being physical challenge. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to run a challenge for employees that was going to allow everyone to take part on an even playing field. And what we found is when we went out into the marketplace that there wasn't anything there that was suitable. So one of our well-being partners, we decided that we were going to partner up with them and come up with our own challenge that was going to deliver what we needed. And that's what happened. So it meant that whether you were super fit, or you were like me, you were a bit of a couch potato, or you were had a disability, or for example, even we had one lady who was 8 months pregnant, everyone could take part, enjoy themselves, compete both individually and as a team, and be successful. And we had some fantastic results coming out of that, both on personal level for some individuals that was completely life-changing for them, to others who saw changes in their mental well-being as much as it wasn't just about physical well-being, it was about mental well-being, it was about social well-being, and it really made such a fantastic change to people's lives. And the business gained as well, in the sense that people felt that they were more motivated, they felt that they were more productive, and 99% of people who took part in the challenge said that this was going to be a change of lifestyle they were going to continue to do. And for our partner, it was a fantastic opportunity because they've been able to come up with a program now, or a product, which they're now going out and selling commercially to other organizations. And so, as I say, it's great to have been a part of that, and it's already won an award, a National Fitness Award for what we've done. So we're really excited about what it's around. The last thing, as I say, in terms of experts is we have this, quite a loose term I'll call it, but we have this regular case management for someone who has a disability. And that means that with HR, with the employee, the individual, and their manager, and perhaps experts where we need them, we are going to work together to ensure that what the solutions we've got for that person are continuing to meet, as I say, what the business and they need. So I've nearly finished, to be glad to know, and I really want to end on trying to bring this all together, because for me, it's all about trust. So it's not enough to have all the right policies and procedures in place, the words as I call them. In reality, if you're working for any organization, you will know when you can rely on that organization to deliver for you. And so words and reality must converge. There's no point to having all these glossy things out there, and actually that's not the reality for the people on the ground. And in the same way, there's no point doing fantastic things and not being able to explain it and get it across properly. So I think whenever you actually just focus in on the right thing, so it's not about, as I say, disclosure. This isn't about let's focus on disclosure and what we can do. It's about how can we be the best people employer that there is. How can we do good things that are going to motivate employees and make them add value? And when you do that, I believe that's a really powerful tool that drives organizational success. So I know I've said it quite a number of times, but as I say, my last point would be, it's really about valuing this individual, no matter who they are, and doing everything possible that you can to make them become the best version of themselves. And that drive, that philosophy really gets paid back from the employee. And whenever that's your driver, you're successful in whatever you do, whether it is disclosure rates, whether it's EDI or FAIR, whether it's engagement, onboarding, as I say, well-being, all of those things, that's what underpins good people management. So that's me. Hopefully, as I say, that's been very short, but hopefully, as I say, it's given you a good of an insight into what we're doing and giving you some good examples. And I'm happy now to take some questions from people and hopefully be able to answer them. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Michael. That was really, really good and really insightful indeed. And those strategies and results that you've come to are actually fantastic. A question for me. You mentioned earlier about implementing reasonable adjustments. Can they be costly? And if so, particularly for SMEs, for small medium enterprises, where can they go to find any bursary or funds in order to do that, to take that on board?
Well, I think a lot of people worry when they hear the word reasonable adjustment because they feel, oh, I'm going to have to do something that's going to cost me lots of money. My experience has been that probably 95% of reasonable adjustments are very simple things. Things that we talked about, like allowing someone to maybe come in a bit later in the morning, or work a bit later at night, or even work, as I say, in the evening time, because they're going to feel better to do that, and trying to look at how that's realistic for you. As a big organisation, we found it quite difficult to get some sort of funding. Now, we've had, for example, Dyslexia Scotland. We've had some staff who've had issues, and they have been able to provide some funding for that individual, but it's more towards the individual than the organisation. I know that there is some government funding, but we have never really needed to go for that. And again, because we're a larger organisation, some of the, what I would call, capital outlay has been able to be covered by the fact of our good profit margins, and everything else. But certainly, as I say, my experiences, and I think most experience when you talk to other companies about this, most people are not looking or expecting something really drastic done. It's little simple changes that have to be made.
Yes, yeah. I think the important thing here is that you need to take a holistic, bespoke approach. That it's an individual basis as well.
And I think Veronica, someone Kevin here has already said, and we talked about before, that the government's Access to Work scheme also helps people. So it does, and supports that sort of provision of reasonable adjustments. So there are some things which some companies can link into. It's just we haven't needed to do that really for the adjustments that we've had to make so far.
Definitely. One of our ambassadors have asked, how long it has taken you to reach this point, and what were your challenges?
Well, I think, as I say, our whole well-being approach. We've probably been looking at this over the last 3 to 5 years. Connect and everything we've been doing around Connect, it has been sort of around about 3 to 4 years we've been working on that. It's been refined. So we had the Connect, which looked very much at someone's skills, and was really a better way of having an appraisal. We don't have appraisals, we don't score forms, and we had a very separate well-being approach. But actually, we've merged those together so that actually we're training managers to spend time. The difficulty, I suppose, that we found was trying to get managers to understand what they need to do and to get that freedom. Because I think managers, it's not that they didn't want to have the conversation, they were quite afraid to have conversations. What they can say and what they can't say. They felt maybe they were going to get themselves into trouble in some discriminatory way. But as I say, we spent a lot of time explaining how they do that, and not letting them worry about overreaching themselves. So if they are worried about a particular situation, HR are there, and as I say, we're bringing these other experts in just to support them alongside that. So I'd say that was probably our biggest challenge. We're managers, and I suppose really employees starting to believe that we actually were willing to do this, and we were willing to make these changes. But as I say, that wasn't as difficult as changing managers' mindsets.
And which I completely appreciate, and especially for managers, I think that training is key, because at the end of it, what you're trying to do is create an environment that is open and inclusive, and that they're able to disclose their disability, including non-visible disabilities as well. Emily has mentioned there that it's, for example, somebody visible disability wheelchair user, that would limit them in terms of where they can go for work, accessing the workplace. Would you have found that yourselves?
Well, as I said, it hasn't been a particular maybe a problem. I mean, the fact that we have this individual who is in a wheelchair on a site, again, it's the role that they're in. So they're a project manager. So a lot of the time, a project manager doesn't need to be out on that project. And I have to be upfront here and say that the project, which was a roads project, lent itself to a bit more mobility than, for example, if we were building a high rise in the middle of a city, that would be more problematic. So yes, I think someone who has in a wheelchair, there are going to be certain restrictions of maybe what they are able to do. But it's trying to change those barriers, or to look what they are. Certainly, as I say, all of our premises, all of our offices are completely wheelchair friendly and disability friendly in every shape, form, variety. Construction industry is always going to be a difficulty. A labourer or let's say perhaps a foreman is going to find it very difficult if they had a mobility issue to be able to do that job. But it's trying to look where I think if we were in that situation, we would try and say, well, how can we meet that, or how can we reuse those skills? So we've had, again, to use an example, we've had some site-based staff who have taken ill and not been able to actually carry on working on site where it was going to be dangerous for them. And we've looked to reskill them in different areas so that they can come in and maybe take on a different role. And to give an example, as I say, is what one man who looks after all of our sort of like plant originally, as I say, was out on site but took a health problem, and because of that health problem, he was no longer allowed to be on site from a health and safety point of view. But as I say, retraining them and taking the knowledge and the experience that he had from a site actually allowed us to use or to redeploy those skills in a different way. And he's been doing that job now successfully. He actually rose to become the manager and leader of that team. So as I say, it's another just example of a success story. But as I say, I have to be honest as well that you can't necessarily always get a solution. There will be times where you will not get a solution.
And it is also about going to the expert as well within that area and see what reasonable adjustments that can be taken on board as well.
Yes. And I think as well as that, is senior management have a really big part to play in all of this. I mean, yes, because they have to lead from the front. They have to say that this is important, and that this is how we're going to treat people. And there has to be accountability. High accountability for managers if there is a problem that we're dealing with that, and that HR and the manager can stand over and say, well, we have done everything we can to try and find the proper solution. And that's got nothing to do just with disability. That's with any employee issue that might arise. And certainly, as I say, at the minute, the biggest issue I think we're facing in terms of maybe even disability is around mental health and the whole issues around that, as opposed to, we all sometimes think about physical disability here instead of mental health disability.
Right.
And that's a real challenge for the industry.
Yeah. We've got, that is correct. We've got another question here. How do you manage high absenteeism from workers with disabilities? What main tips would you be able to give?
Well, I think that, as I said earlier on, it's about this contact, keeping in contact first and foremost, because a lot of the time someone can feel isolated when they're off, and that can be. I'm using a mental health issue here as well, but one of the things we've done, we've been able to halve the amount of time that someone is off with mental health absence, and that's been because of the interaction that we've taken place. Now our EAP has we don't use it because we're happy with what we're doing, but our EAP has a service where if someone is off, they will contact them quickly and try and get them involved with occupational health or with counselling if they need it. But as I say, we have taken a more personalised approach because it's worked for us. And obviously, as I say, someone might be off long term with a physical issue, and we will regularly meet them. We'll be working with them in terms of occupational health. We'll be looking at what options might be in terms of getting even them back on a part-time basis. And again, I'll use an example of an employee who about 3 or 4 years ago went out and fell on a night out with their friends and had some brain damage. And it looked at one point that they weren't going to be able to maybe ever work again. But over time and working with them and working with their rehabilitation, we were able to start getting them to do little bits, and then they moved up. And eventually, as I say, I'm very fortunate for this person, they've been able to come back and go back into the role that they did, which was a site engineer 4 years ago. But as I say, over that time, there were lots of different things they had to do, and we had to be quite flexible. So we were very good in terms of in terms of how we were able to finance that and giving them pay. But that only happened and going to be above and beyond what the statutory need would be, or even some of their contractual need would be. But again, it's very much dependent on that person and that moment. But I think the tips, my tip, sorry, because I'm warbling there, but my tip would be very much, I think you've got to really try and get this close relationship with someone, because sometimes, as I say, people can feel isolated. That can be part of their fear of coming back, or they're not being able to talk about things. And I think once you get in and have that conversation, you're actually then at least having some dialogue to try and find a solution that's going to work, and be open to look at different solutions and look at, well, it's not this person has to be back and doing 100%. They can be coming back and doing something different, or maybe doing 10% and then 20% and 30%. It's just thinking outside the box.
Sure. No, definitely. What about for those SMEs don't have that resource in order to do as much as a big organization like yourselves? I mean, is there anything that they could implement that is similar, that would also reduce the absenteeism record,
Well, I
sickness
think, as I
absence?
say, what I was saying, Veronica, is that I don't think that costs a great deal. So
Yeah.
there's not really a lot of cost in keeping in regular contact with someone, in just having a chat with them. And most organizations will be able to get access to occupational health. Again, if you go with like a counselling service like Health Assured, which is the one that we use, it's not really that expensive per employee, and they provide quite a large range of services which you can bring to bear, including occupational health.
Yes.
And as I say, it might only cost, £10 per employee for a year to be in that sort of situation. Again, it's scaled down depending on the size of the organisation you have. So there are places out there that can help you and can give you a structure. So my advice would be to look around, talk to some of these organisations and see what they offer, and then back that up by having just a good proactive people approach.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. A question from Molly. How can you encourage disclosure of mental health issues and disabilities at recruitment stage?
Well, obviously, from a legal point of view, we don't ask any medical questions until such times as someone has been offered a job. That's obviously the law, but certainly we'll be asking those questions. And what we've done is we have an onboarding process where it's done online, and there's lots of interaction with employees long before they actually physically turn up on their first day. So part of that is really trying to get them to understand our approach to various things. So we have little videos, and we have one, for example, on mental health. So it really talks about our approach, what's expected, and how we support people, and that it's okay not to be okay. So there's the message coming out from the senior leader of this organisation, the owner of this business, and to HR, that this is a normal conversation that people will have. So as I say, some people will definitely tell us. Some people maybe are a bit more cautious and won't tell us up front, but we'll find out within the first 4 to 6 weeks usually, because maybe they're testing out. We don't really trust this organisation, but whenever they're in and they find out, well, they're happy to say, look, well, I've got these health issues, and then we deal with it. So as I say, whether that's mental health or disabilities, I mean, we're encouraging people to tell us, and once people have told us, we'll be taking this very proactive approach and explaining to them what we do. But as I say, we really are talking to them, and this is just something that we did a review of our onboarding process, and we've started to do that now. We totally revamped it in the last 12 months, and it's very much about connecting with people quicker, making them feel, and that's not just about disability here, it's about actually making them feel part of the business as quickly as possible. Their manager being in contact with them, and them turning up to site or into the office and having a cup of coffee with the team, just getting to feel, well, actually, I'm now part of Team Graham, even though I mightn't be starting for 30 days or 60 days, I'm part of what's going on, and I know what's going on there. And we do a lot of drip feeding of information so people don't get inundated with it. They know what we're about, where they go to get help.
Yes. Oh, fantastic. Just to go back a little bit, Kevin did ask, do you allow individuals who take time off for disability-related absences to record this as such and not as sickness absence in the usual sense?
Yes, well, obviously what we would do is that would be that is what we would do. So we would never any of that absence that if someone is off for anything to do with disability or mental health. We will not be taking that into account if there was any particular HR issue, let's say, with that individual, or if we were where there was a particular team had to reduce down their numbers. None of that would ever be taken into account. So it's only what I would call genuine absence. So if someone had the cold or they had the flu, or they were in because they had to get their ingrown toenail sorted or something. Well, obviously that's going to be included. But if they were off genuinely because something related to their disability, it will not be included. And as I say, disability now is such a quite wide area, and some of the stuff that we've been doing, you've just popped into my head there, is what people understand as being a disability. So we've had some little guides for employees. We did the first one, which was on diabetes. So it was about people, what you might call hidden disabilities that people might not be able to look and see. And so we worked along with a number of our employees who had diabetes to really come up with a little guide for them, for employees and managers. So what happens? It's things like storing their medication, ensuring having an emergency plan. So if somebody goes into some form of seizure, what you do if you're the person that's there, and the first aider is aware of that, and the manager's aware of it. It's just taking sensible precautions and treating people properly.
No, indeed. No, brilliant. Thank you. So, final question here, Michael. What actions, practices can our FAIR ambassadors actually implement today in order to start building that momentum of increasing their disclosure rates within their own organizations? So, top 3 for yourselves.
Well, it's very difficult because it depends, I think, on the culture of the business. I think that there needs to be an understanding from senior leadership, from senior managers, that this is not a detriment to their business. That actually, so there has to be, the first thing that has to happen here is you have to have buy-in. People at the top have to get it and understand it, because they need to be able to. Everything else you're going to do is going to drive forth, not because it's about the message.
Yes.
I think that you can start to, maybe the second thing, you might look at some people who are working with you who are disabled, and who you've been maybe working with, to maybe get closer to that person and see how you can come up with some better adjustments there. And again, this sort of view that it's not this big physical thing, but how can we make their job easier or better? How can we make them more productive? And those people then start to become your role models. So there's no quick fix here, is what I'm saying. It's not just going to happen overnight. You're not suddenly going to get people, because this is about trust.
Yes.
It's about people feeling that you're actually doing the right thing for them. So you've got to start to put these foundations in place. So people maybe don't want to hear that, but as I say, we've been doing this for the last 3 to 5 years along this journey, and I don't think there is something that you can just go today and say that's going to work for me. But because if you do something just isolated, it's going to look odd, and people are going to say, "Why are they doing that? Is it just tokenism?" There's got to be a sort of philosophy behind it. Senior people have got to be behind it, and you've got to start getting people trusting you, and when they trust you, can use them. I always like little analogies here, but I use the analogy of the elves and shoemaker story. So the first night, the little shoemaker had one set of leather to make one shoe, and he came down and he sold that, and that made 2 pairs of shoes, and it made 3, and it made 5, and it made 6. You've got to start off with making 1 pair of shoes.
Yes.
Not trying to make a whole shoe shop. And as I say, that's where things are going to go forward from there. So I don't think I'm necessarily answering that perhaps the way you wanted.
No, it's okay.
But that's the truth. It's not going to happen overnight. It's got to be something you've got to take a long-term approach and got to be committed to doing, and have the right people behind you.
Yeah, and as you said, setting those foundations in place and building upon that. So, no, great advice given. Thank you so much for that, Michael.
No
really, really do appreciate it. And for our FAIR ambassadors, we do have further information on our resource library, a publication from the Disabilities Rights UK, which also provides useful tips on supporting people with disabilities. We will also be running a disability and health awareness masterclass in the new year on Wednesday, the 22nd of January. Places are limited, so sign up as soon as you can. We have come to the end of the webinar. I thank you so much again, Michael, for your time and your recommendations. I'm sure the FAIR ambassadors will say thank you in terms of the pointers that you have given are absolutely fantastic. And yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, and hopefully everyone has benefited from it. And obviously, to say you've got my details, Veronica, and I think some of the people maybe who've been on, Kevin and whatever, know me and whatever. So there's no problem if people got some questions or want to talk about it at another stage. I'm quite happy to do that on a one-to-one basis.
Definitely. And we can also carry on with the conversation on the LinkedIn group as well. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Nick.
For ambassadors, there is a automatic feedback form. Please remember to fill that out. And thank you so much. We'll hear from you soon.